Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. We have never dealt with a federal agency that lies as flagrantly and as aggressively about literal life and death situations as Donald Trump and Kristi Noem's Department of Homeland Security. We, of course, as Americans, all saw this play out with the killing of Renee Good last month. You might remember Kristi Noem's false version of events issued right after the fatal shooting.
The officer was hit by the vehicle. She hit him. He went to the hospital. A doctor did treat him. You know, it's clearly established law that a vehicle driven by a person and used to harm someone is a deadly weapon. This domestic act of terrorism to use your vehicle to try to kill law enforcement officers is going to stop. And I'm asking the Department of Justice to prosecute it as domestic terrorism because it's clear that it's being coordinated. People are being trained and told how to use their vehicles to impede law enforcement operations and then to run over anybody who gets in their way. We had law enforcement officers that were out there doing an enforcement action. And a vehicle got stuck in the snow, and so they had called for other people to come and help them get that vehicle out. Those officers were trying to free the vehicle when the harassment started, when the protesters were out there impeding their vehicles and preventing them from leaving the scene.
Of course, we all saw the video of Renee Good getting shot, multiple videos, in fact, from multiple angles. We could see that Noem's version of events were an obvious fabrication. She was just lying about what happened. And Renee Good was not some sort of Antifa super soldier out to murder federal agents, to drive over anybody who got in her way. She was a mom driving a Honda Pilot with stuffed animals in the glove box, who used her very last words on this earth to assure the agent who would go on to kill her, quote, "I'm not mad at you." And then, of course, it didn't stop there. DHS did the exact same thing a few weeks later after Alex Preddy was executed at point-blank range. As soon as it was discovered he was legally carrying a firearm, they spun up a whole narrative.
An individual approached U.S. Border Patrol officers with a 9mm semi-automatic handgun. The officers attempted to disarm this individual, but the armed suspect reacted violently. Fearing for his life and for the lives of his fellow officers around him, an agent fired defensive shots. This looks like a situation where an individual arrived at the scene to inflict maximum damage on individuals and to kill law enforcement.
Stephen Miller called Preddy an assassin on social media, that he wanted to murder federal agents. Vice President J.D. Vance retweeted those comments. An assassin who tried to murder federal agents. Again, we all saw the video. We all know what actually happened. The gun that Preddy was carrying legally, which he never held nor brandished, was removed from Preddy before he was shot, while lying prone on the ground on all fours with a gun just a few inches from his body. And Alex Preddy was not a domestic terrorist trying to inflict maximum damage and kill law enforcement. That official story, promulgated by Kristi Noem and Stephen Miller and J.D. Vance and the government that is our government, was a lie. They're lying to you. They're lying to us. They know it. In fact, they seem proud of it.
Have you apologized? Did you plan to apologize to the family of Alex Preddy?
For what?
For, labeling him an assassin with ill intent.
Well, again, I just described to you what I said about Alex Preddy, which is that he's a guy who showed up with ill intent to an ICE protest.
No, but if if it's determined that his civil rights were violated by this FBI investigation, will you apologize to that?
So, if this hypothetical leads to that hypothetical leads to another hypothetical,
it's a real case.
Will I do it?
It's not just Minneapolis either. Do you remember the story of Miramar Martinez? That's the teacher's assistant who was shot 5 times by Border Patrol in Chicago during their Operation Midway Blitz. Now, again, we got initial news reports in which DHS says she tried to ambush CBP agents and ram them with her car. They even arrested and charged her with assault. Now, what happened was those charges were dropped basically as soon as the case went to discovery, because in discovery, the government's narrative was going to fall completely apart. You see, the agent who shot Martinez was found to have sent a text message to other agents bragging about what he had done. Quote, "I fired 5 rounds and she had 7 holes. Put that in your book, boys." Yesterday, Martinez spoke to Congress about what she experienced.
The mental scars will always be there as a reminder of the time my own government attempted to execute me, and when they fell, they chose to vilify me. I am Renee Good. I am Alex Preddy. I am Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. I am Keith Porter. They should all be here today. I know each of them would trade my bullet wounds a lifetime of mental distress and a heartbeat to be able to be back with their loved ones this afternoon.
Again, this woman was arrested after they shot her a bunch of times. She had to get herself to a hospital, and they came into the hospital and were impatient, the doctors there said, to get her out of there so that they could take her to detention. Now, this has been this administration's MO from the beginning. I mean, remember this one. These things sort of come, they enter the news cycle, and they go away, and then we sort of lose track of them. Remember this? We covered on this show that really big, flashy Chicago raid from last year. It looked like they were like cutting a war film, right? The one where they landed a Black Hawk helicopter on a residential apartment building in the South Shore neighborhood, which is just like a very random, like residential neighborhood. And at the time, the administration said that this was a targeted raid on the Tren de Aragua gang members, right? That's the gang in Venezuela that they've accused of being narco-terrorists, that they sort of use as a justification for all those people they've killed in the Caribbean, right? They said, this was their justification, the building was occupied by these violent gang member Venezuelan migrants. It was a total lie. To this day, they haven't offered any evidence to back up that claim. That was the claim they used to justify this insane raid. In reality, according to arrest records published by ProPublica today, and kudos to them, they've done great reporting, quote, agents wrote they launched the operation based on intelligence there were illegal aliens unlawfully occupying apartments. They said they focused their search on units that were not legally rented or leased at the time. In other words, there was a tip or allegation that some people were squatting in an apartment building. No mention at all of Tren de Aragua. Do you think squatters need a U.S. military helicopter and people rappelling off the sides, and for kids to be pulled out of the building and put in zip ties, and for the residents of the building, American and immigrant, to be separated by race and put into trucks? That's not the only DHS narrative that completely fell apart this week. Because back in January, it was after the shooting of Renee Good, but before the shooting of Alex Preddy, a federal agent shot someone else, a person in the leg in Minneapolis. And we covered it here on the show as it unfolded. And as is often the case with these events, there's very little information in the beginning. And most news outlets are careful, right? Don't want to get it wrong. Want to make sure we can confirm what we have. DHS rushes out a story, just like Alex Preddy and Renee Good. So here's what DHS said at the time. During an attempt to arrest a suspect, quote, 2 subjects came out of a nearby apartment and attacked the law enforcement officer with a snow shovel and broom handle. Fearing for his life and safety as he was being ambushed by 3 individuals, the officer fired a defensive shot to defend his life. Now, that does sound, in that telling, like a totally justified use of force. Witnesses on the scene have repeatedly said that was a lie. In fact, what they said was the agent shot at them through their front door. Can you shoot at someone defensively through a closed front door? New reporting from the Star Tribune, again, who's been doing great reporting, now backs him up. The Star Tribune reviewed photos, which have now been shown in court, of what appears to be a bullet hole. Quote, the hole appears several inches to the right of the door hinge. Pictures from inside the home indicate the bullet fragment ultimately hit a bedroom wall down the hall, suggesting it traveled between a mattress and a portable crib in a room where several children sleep. Federal judge overseeing that case has ordered ICE to release the 2 Venezuelans who were in detention. And that bullet, as you see there, was later recovered by Minnesota law enforcement. So it sure doesn't sound like the officer in question shot at the man in self-defense while they were beating him with a shovel and a broom, if he shot through the front door of the house. DHS declined to comment to the Star Tribune regarding this new evidence. I could go longer. I mean, we are keeping this to the most salient cases. There's more we had to leave on the cutting room floor. And in the macro sense, it is clear this administration knows they are losing the PR battle in Minnesota. Today, Trump's so-called border czar, Tom Homan, announced he's withdrawing 700 immigration agents from the state, which will leave more than 2,000 agents on the ground there. Just to keep in mind, there's normally about 150 total. So we're still talking order of magnitude larger. Trump himself acknowledged maybe he needs a new public approach.
I learned that maybe we can use a little bit of a softer touch, but you still have to be tough. These are criminals. We're dealing with really hard criminals. But look, I've called the people. I've called the governor. I've called the mayor, spoke to them, had great conversations with them.
Oh, hard criminals like Liam Ramos, the 5-year-old boy in the Spider-Man backpack, or the poet, mother of 3, or the VA ICU nurse. Make no mistake, they are not changing course.